Hello and welcome to another episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Hi. How are y'all doing? I hope everyone is doing very well. This will probably be a more truncated episode because it's been a bit of a hectic week. Had some issues with a prescription for my father yesterday that we had to get sorted out, and that became a whole thing that basically threw that entire day away. So that was stressful, and even when it was all sorted, it became just a wasted day. There's no coming back from that. But other stuff, just getting things sorted, and everything is maybe sorted now, which is a really weird state to be in, both a literal sense and a mind sense. I don't know why that just broke me internally. I had a little chuckle and I thought, what's wrong with me? There's some news and stuff that happened and came out. Probably. The only thing that I really gravitated towards or that stood out to me was Nintendo acquiring the studio that did the ports for Mortal Kombat 1 and Hogwarts Legacy. And I think they've done other stuff, of course, besides that and prior to that. But I think it's such an interesting development because Nintendo is not one to acquire frequently. This is their third American-based company. And of course, I guess the Hogwarts Legacy port was decent, but the Mortal Kombat 1 port was, of course, a flaming mess. But that may have been due to limited resources, limited time frame. I'm not sure what the backstory on all that was, and or if they eventually fixed it. But it's a very peculiar, interesting, what does this mean acquirement for Nintendo? It makes me wonder if they want to try and get more third-party games on their platform, big third-party games, and they want to have their own studio so that they can say to companies unwilling to do the work themselves, hey, we have this studio, let's work together. They'll do the brunt of the work. Let's get this game or that game on the Switch too. That's the only thing that I could think of. This isn't a studio that's going to be porting things to other systems, so that has to be the reason for the acquirement. But good for them. I guess they were part of Embracer, so to go from Embracer to Nintendo feels like a big win in terms of, what is the word I'm looking for? Sustainability is not the word, but we'll just go with that one. Also, the games we'll be talking about today, should get to that, include, where's the damn list? Hauntii, Paper Trail, Survival, Fountain of Youth, Bem Feito, Dungeons 4, and the pinball tables for Pinball FX Pacific Rim Pinball and Universal Pinball TV Classics. Have watched some movies. I watched American Fiction, which I really liked when it started. I thought it started off incredibly well. Had a nice bit of fire to it. It felt like it was going to be going places and it was going to be a great time. And then it just kind of whimpered more and more as it went along. And then ruined itself with the ending. I did not like the last 10-15 minutes of the movie, though I think given the progression of the movie and how things became more and more unrealistic, more ridiculous, it made sense that what was revealed, but it did kind of bum me out. I enjoyed it overall, but it is not something that hit that I want to own it threshold. So that's why it's weird for me to get bummed out when a movie doesn't hit that threshold, because why do I need to add more to my collection? Why do I need to spend more money? So on and so forth. But I like movies, so I like it when I'm able to find something that I like and want to own. And it's got a really, really good cast. That also had me thinking, because I knew only of Jeffrey Wright being in it. But we had Adam Brody as a good scummy. What was he? Was he a director? He was a Hollywood guy. He might have been a producer. But he was good in it. I quite like him. That reminds me now, I watched The Kid Detective maybe a year ago. Less than a year ago. Had a really good time with that. Wanted to buy it. Completely forgot about my wanting to buy it. I need to go look at where to get that for a decent price. Kid Detective, that's a good time. But then you also had Sterling K. Brown, who I love, and seeing him in this reminded me of that love, and how even in movies I don't particularly enjoy, I think I always enjoy him if he's in them. And I'm not sure, because at this point it's so hard to remember who the fuck has been in the MCU and who hasn't. If he's not been in the MCU in any way, what about him taking over what's his face's? Is it Kang? Kang the Conqueror? I don't even remember the name of that character, but that dude, obviously gone. But are they just gonna abandon that character in that storyline, or just replace him? I think with that character, you could replace him appearance-wise and have it make sense. In the same way that they did that with the Matrix and the Oracle. But I really liked the love interest for Jeffrey Wright's character. I like that actress. Though I feel like I've seen her in at least one or two other things, but I could not place her at all. And then I thought, there's a lot of good in the movie, but I think the main storyline is where it falls apart, and that's the main part of the story, or the main part of the movie. But I also really like the mother's helper. I don't know what you'd call her role. I don't want to say she was the maid or the house, but she's been with the family a long time, taking care of the mother, who ended up getting Alzheimer's in the movie. That was a part of the storyline. But her and the security guard, they're adorable. They're adorable together. I loved getting to see their little side story. I loved when, this is a really small little scene, but there's a part where, because Sterling K. Brown is kind of falling apart, he's being a bit reckless and self-destructive, and she has a very motherly interaction with him that was so sweet. But all the stuff with Jeffrey Wright's character, it gets to the point where this is... Are we in a grounded movie, or are we in some kind of parody, satire? It wasn't balancing it that well. And then it kind of made sense again with those last 10-15 minutes, but then that didn't work for me. I also watched The Edge of Tomorrow, rewatched The Edge of Tomorrow. I did not like it as much as I remember liking it the first time. And that made me think, you know what would be valuable? For someone like me, at least, who does value both of these types of experiences is having reviewers or being a reviewer of movies and giving movies 2 reviews, one for that initial viewing and then one for subsequent viewings. That doesn't mean you have to review it or watch it again right away, but after a certain period of time to revisit movies and then review them and see how they hold up. There are obvious movies that would be very different between watches, like Sixth Sense, where so much of it relies on the viewer not knowing the twist, and then that twist being like, oh my god, holy shit moment. So obviously a second viewing would be very different. That just got me thinking, because Edge of Tomorrow, it was all right. It was all right. Still good overall, but I think it could have been trimmed down. Felt a bit in the middle, like it was just dragging its feet. The story being told in the movie, while there is this grand war and all this shit happening with the aliens in the entire country or in the world, the story of this movie, the focus of The Edge of Tomorrow, was not the way it was told. It wasn't big enough to warrant the amount of time they spent on some of this stuff. And as much as I like Tom Cruise, I do think he's decent in it, but I think there could have been someone better for the role. Who? I don't know. When I was watching it, my immediate thought, I don't know why, I don't know if this would be a good choice, but my immediate thought was Michael Shannon. Because obviously you don't want an action star, because that's the whole point, is that he's this bureaucrat type person who is selling the war and selling the military, but isn't actually a part of it. And he's not a part of it in terms of being on the ground and fighting alongside. Sort of what Captain America was initially, except, of course, Steve Rogers wanted to fight, but they were using him as a poster man, not a child. So maybe him, but someone else I would have liked to have seen in the role. And then maybe put Tom Cruise in Michael Shannon's role in Bullet Train, because as much as like Michael Shannon, that character in that movie was built up to be this almost mythological figure, and I think you need a much bigger star to make that reveal feel as big as the movie makes it seem like it's going to be. When it was him, I was like, really? That's the best you could do? You got Brad Pitt in your movie. Maybe you should have made Brad Pitt like, just, all right, this is Michael Shannon. And if you make it Tom Cruise, for instance, then he could be like, Bullet Train is actually the secret sequel to The Last Samurai. And then everyone will love it. Bullet Train's a fun movie, though. But let us get on to what I've been playing. Get through this quick, because right now I developed some chest pains, and that's not comfortable for podcasting. So we're gonna start with Hauntii. Hauntii, I forgot I was doing the Steam descriptions and everything. Do we want to keep doing that? Sure, why not? Hauntii. Hauntii. All covered, and here we go on Steam. I don't want to read that word. But it's a... I don't know. I see this word and I think, I read this in my head and then I don't say it out loud and I don't want to say it. Oh, you stupid. Beguiling adventure in which you undercover... No, you don't undercover. You uncover the secrets of an expansive and mysterious world, haunting both the environment and its denizens to craft ingenious solutions to many challenges that await. You play some dead kid guy. And the way the game works is that you move around the environment. You want to stay in the light because if you go into the darkness, if you spend too much time in there, the shadows will gobble you up, presumably. I always got back in the light before anything could happen. But in the time I played with the game, while it looks beautiful, it has this monochromatic style that changes the palette, changes the core color, varying on where you are and whatnot. It looks very, very good. It's got a great sense of style and art direction, and the animations are great as well. And on top of that, something I don't often mention, which should tell you that it is quite good here, the score, the music is fantastic. It really helps to elevate moments and actions in a way I really appreciated. I can appreciate music when it really hits me, and it was working here. Sadly, though, the actual gameplay was quite tedious almost immediately, feeling like it was going to be nothing more than just one long collectathon and very basic puzzle things. One of your main mechanics is the ability to haunt specific objects and things in the environment. So you can haunt a tree, for instance, and then have it raise to the sky and collect some garbage. You can haunt this turret-like thing that's in one area, and then you can drive it around like a tank, sort of, and then using that thing's weapon costs these little purple things you collect from mushrooms and that are just scattered openly in the environment. You also, when not haunting something, can shoot twin stick shooter control wise. That's fine. But all I was really doing was following these paths of light, because you gotta stay in the light if you want to survive, talking with characters every now and again, and collecting. And I just got pretty bored with it fairly quickly. And the story that was being told, very minimalist story, did not grab me in that first 45 minutes, an hour. You meet this girl spirit very early on, because you're dead. I'm pretty sure you're dead. And then you get separated and you're trying to get back to her. And that's that. I might give it a bit more time to see if it becomes something more than just what it appears to be initially, but seeing a fly over the world and what's there, it didn't really seem like there was going to be more than that. That is Hauntii. Next, we have... what do we have? Paper Trail, which I feel like has been getting a bit of buzz. And should have prepared. Paper Trail is a top-down puzzle adventure about leaving home set in a foldable paper world. I, like the last game, really love the look of this style, since it is based around this paper mechanic, which I'll get to very quickly. It has this kind of cutout aesthetic that looks very, very good. Great use of colors. It's not super vibrant or in your face. Ever so slightly muted, but quite visually pleasing. But what you're doing in this game is to complete puzzles, navigate through areas, and continue down the path and follow the story. You are the game screen. The areas that you are in are pieces of paper, and then you fold them to reveal new paths or create new paths or get past something that's obstructing your way. And you could fold top down from the bottom up. You can fold corners in, and you could do multiple folds together. And it's super interesting as a mechanic. My problem is, one, I don't like the fact that you're controlling this character. I wish that wasn't even a part of it. I wish it was just the folding mechanic, and that was that. And that when you folded in certain ways, you would reveal something that would continue along this narrative, and that the narrative was stronger than it is in what I've experienced. I don't like the way your character moves either. Not that it's super important, I just don't like it though. But the problem with me for the game is that whenever I'm solving these puzzles, I never have those aha moments where I feel like, oh, this is what I have to do. I have to fold here first, only to here, then fold this part, then fold this part. I only ever solve puzzles if I don't immediately know what to do by brute forcing them. And that doesn't give me that, I got it. That just gives me, oh, there we go. I finally brute forced my way through this puzzle. There is a pretty decent hint system as well if you have difficulty with the puzzles. But then that takes away from the experience, because if you're not completing the puzzles on your own and not having those aha moments, which I think you should have, then there's little here for you to enjoy. Because again, I don't think the narrative, at least initially, is very strong, a strong driving force to push you through any other hurdles. There is a demo though, so you can check out the demo. Though while the game, the full game is Xbox One and Series consoles, I think the demo might only be Series on Xbox at least. I can't speak to any other platforms. If there's a demo on Steam, which of course, how would there be a demo on Xbox and not on Steam? That you can just check out. But and it's on. I'm pretty sure it's on everything. Very, very pretty game that I wish I clicked with from a gameplay standpoint, but puzzles just weren't vibing for me. I wish it was more. I wish it was just the paper folding mechanic and that it clicked with me more, because what I would like this game to make me feel more of is the same thing that I had, even though I know I had issues with it, but I quite enjoy that Gorogoa game, I believe, which was that sliding block that had the four spaces. I really enjoyed the way that one worked, and I wish this was more like that. But that is, again, Paper Trail. Then we have Survival Fountain of Youth, which is a survival game. Survival of Youth. Survival of Youth is a challenging single-player open-world adventure game set on the Caribbean island. Survive as a shipwrecked 16th century explorer, craft tools and shelter, and uncover the secrets of both an ancient civilization and your own fate. So this is one of them first-person survival tree puncher type games where you're shipwrecked on an island. You're all by yourself. You got to survive, so you got to hunt animals to get food, collect resources, do a lot of crafting, exploring, and all that good jazz. I've only played a bit of it so far, but my initial impression is this is way more forgiving than a lot of these games, and is kind of chill and relaxing. The pace feels much slower. You have sliders that you can switch up the challenge and how many times you can respawn and stuff like that. But in the time I've put into it, it seems all right. But the problem in that would just be that there it feels like a game where you can just go in and relax. And if you're looking for a survival game, you might be disappointed in how easy it is to survive on all the default. I didn't change any of the default or the difficulty settings. So keep that in mind. But going around the world was easy. Crafting and all that stuff was easy. It does have full controller support, but the way it all works is odd too, in that when you were going around doing what would be tree punching and all that jazz, instead of going up to a tree and using your axe, you may be able to do this if you want, is the actual action yourself, and attacking enemies using your weapons in melee mode, even throwing a spear, that stuff doesn't feel that good. But moving around, you don't have a jump either. You just kind of climb if you are at a good enough height, which is, again, so the way you collect resources, you just go up to a tree and then it'll say interact with, press this button, disassemble, press this button, and you do that. It says what kind of resources you can get, and you select how much you want of each and of what's available from it. Then it happens. It takes a certain amount of time, so that time will pass in game, and then you've got your resources, and it all makes it feel very. There's an aspect of that makes me feel like I'm not engaging with the game, that I'm not actually playing it, but I'm more so playing what would be like a football manager for a sports game or something along those lines, where yeah, I can jump in and play and do things myself here and there, but really I can just fucking go through, do everything in the menus. So that was a surprisingly unengaging aspect of it. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. Runs well. I had no issues performance-wise, because it just hit 1.0. I think it might have been an early access game. But it's a weird one. It's a weird one. It's me, a weird one. Okay, whatever. But those are some initial impressions of Survival Fountain of Youth. Then we've got Bem Feito. Fucking Bem, B-E-M, Feito, F-E-I-T-O. Bem Feito is a life sim where players follow. Reginaldo? Reginaldo? Is that how you say that? Let's just call him Reggie. You follow Reggie, a charming and almost silent protagonist. Reggie's simple life revolves around his daily household tasks, captivating friends, and perhaps unexpected choices that subtly shape the course of the game. This game looks pretty good. It's got somewhat of a Game Boy-ish pixel aesthetic, but in a 3D space, which I've seen quite a few times in indie games, and I like this style, I like the vibe of it. So it looks quite good. That's where all my positives end. So this positions itself as a very, very simple life sim. However, it reveals itself immediately to be something more than just that. In the same vein as in tangential spoilers for Doki Doki Literature Club, so if you've not played that and want to skip this section, spoilers, Bem Feito, not worth playing. So there, you don't need to keep listening anyway. But the game launches you, when you first boot it up, into a type of OS and a desktop where you've got some messages and documents and a ROM and so on and so forth. And the game is structured around this idea that I think this Bem Feito game is some lost ROM for maybe I don't know if the console was just a failed console or one that never existed, but you discover this ROM, trying to figure out, learn more about it. So you play it, and the way the actual game works is you wake up, You've got a list of chores to do on the fridge, and then you go about doing them. Very simple stuff like collecting apples that have fallen from the tree, watering plants, cleaning up the kitchen, taking out the garbage, so on and so forth. But then the last task of each day will be some kind of weird thing that is shaking to show that it's a little off, and you'll eventually start meeting some very weird characters like a sentient flame and a giant nose. And what you end up doing with these characters is not good, and it quickly shows its hand at there's something weird and dark happening here. And I think because there's a good ending and a bad ending, maybe other endings, that there might be a way of not following what the game is telling you to do. But because there's no real mystery and it in no way really hides any of this stuff, the feeling that I got while playing Doki Doki, where everything and I went into that knowing that things got weird at some point. I didn't know how they got weird. I assumed it was dark in some way. I didn't know how dark. But that was such a well done reveal and ride and a hell of a game. But this doesn't even bother trying to do any of that, to subtly reveal little things here and there. It just fucking... Obviously, something fucking weird's happening right away. Oh, and then you do this. That's fucking weird. Okay, and then it's like, I don't want to do this. That's obviously not going to be a good outcome. Oh, look, fucking, I told the fire character, hey, let's go for a swim, even though it's fire. And then I kept pushing them until they backed into the thing, and then they died, and they were all bloody. Okay, whatever. Did not jive with me. That's Bem Feito. Then Dungeons 4. Let's just read this trailer. I barely played any of this, and I'll tell you why. But I played Dungeons 3. I don't remember Dungeons 3 exactly being the same way. Dungeons 4. The absolute evil and its trusted servant, the dark elf Thalia, return in Dungeons 4 after the events of its fabulous predecessor. Ooh, look at that self-accolade. To bring about their triumph over the forces of good once more. That doesn't tell you shit about what kind of game this is. So I guess they're just assuming, hey, you want to play this game, then play the other ones first. But it's a seemingly type of RTS thing where I believe at some point you build your own dungeon and have explorers come in and fuck with them. I think that's what you'll eventually do. Isn't that the whole point of this game? What makes it unique? But what pushed me away immediately was the narration and the voice acting and the writing. It's all incredibly abrasive and annoying, and you can adjust the narrator's little comments, though not revolving around the story or any of that stuff, but just random chimes. You can turn those off completely, but that doesn't stop him from talking when it's important for the story. There's no way to stop your character from talking, and they're just so fucking annoying with horrible write. I could not stand playing this game because characters would not shut the fuck up. You could lessen it, yes, but you couldn't completely. Yeah, I could turn my fucking volume down, but if I have to do that to potentially enjoy your game, I got better things to do. So maybe check out a trailer or something, a story trailer, and if you don't feel the same, then give it a check out. If you're a fan of the Dungeons games, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Then last up are the pinball effects tables. Pacific Rim Pinball. I'm not a fan of the movie, and I thought the table was really weak. I don't think the visuals did a good job of representing the visuals in the movie, which are the only real good thing about the movie. So I found that table pretty boring. And then the Universal Pinball TV Classics tables included one for Battlestar Galactica, Xena, Warrior Princess, and Knight Rider. I thought the Xena one was the worst. The table overall looked pretty good, but I didn't like playing it. The Knight Rider had a good vibe to it, but I think with that one, it felt like the ball really didn't want to stay in game. And then the standout for me, one of the tables I've enjoyed the most in recent memory was is the Battlestar Galactica table. I really, really enjoyed that one. It does seem quite generous with points. It was the table I did the best on, and I had a ball in play for quite a while. I've never had such a long multi-ball either. I lost so many balls during the multi-ball, and they just kept giving me more and more balls, and I was like, oh my god, I can't take all these balls. Just in general, not even with pinball, there's too many balls, all right? I can only take so many balls, and this was way too many balls, Battlestar Galactica. But I really liked the way that table worked. It had a very sterile look to it by default, but then when you would go on these various missions, it would change the lighting, and it made the table feel quite different. I just really enjoyed it. I think it did a good job of representing the property, and it was a fun table that you don't have to really be good at doing all the tilting and extra type of maneuvers that some of these other pinball tables clearly require that want to just eat your balls. Why did I phrase it that way? The Knight Rider one has some cool stuff too, where you can go on missions and you see the car in the back, not in the background, but it's in the back of the table in 3D on this, like, what if it was a real table, it would be some sort of conveyor belt system. It was cool. The Xena one it has her circle blade thing. There's like two of them spinning in the back, and it has so much more color and is way more vibrant than the other tables, so it stands out in that sense. But I didn't like it. And there's a 3D model of Xena that doesn't look like Lucy Lawless, so it looks weird, and I don't like that, especially since they have 2D art of her on the table. So it's just, she looks fucking off. But I'd say overall though, the Universal Table Pack, solid, because I really like the Battlestar Galactica table. I don't know if you can buy them separately. And I think the Knight Rider one is pretty good, and with more time I could probably enjoy it more. My back. And then the Xena one, maybe it could grow on me, but that my initial impression wasn't super hot on that. And then Pacific Rim, I think even if you're a Pacific Rim fan, I didn't get strong theming from it, not just from a visual standpoint, just from a vibe standpoint, so I would pass on that one. But that's it in terms of what I've been playing, so that will do it for this here episode of the Pixelated Sausage Show. Once again, I am Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can go over to patreon.com/PXS to support me and my nonsense, where you get random drops like tier rankings of movies or any other stuff, director tier rankings, and so on and so forth. There's going to be one coming up soon with Denis Villeneuve, however you say his last name, his movies. I'll be doing one soon. And of course, there's a monthly Q&A for all you can oatmealers, some fancy schmancy Discord roles depending on your tier, a private channel for the cool kids called the Cool Kids Club, and some other little fun things. So if any of that sounds good, or you just want to support me, that is again patreon.com/pxs. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. Speaking of everything and all that jazz, Attack the Backlog, new episode for The Ascent went up this past Sunday. And then the final episode, because I'm pretty sure I'll be able to finish for this second episode, will be this Sunday. So if you haven't already checked the first episode, check out that. And then get excited for the second episode. And then after that, who knows what I'll be playing. I'm going to be creating quite the list of potential games and sectioning them off into smaller games and then big old meaty games. Because I don't know what I want to play next. If I want to do another smaller game or really get crazy with something like The Witcher 3, which would probably take me months to complete. We'll see, though. We'll see. But that is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have both a wonderful rest of your day, a lovely rest of your week, and a wonderful weekend. But for now, adios, arrivederci. Bye bye.
It's go time. Go, daddy.